Today we're talking college football in the middle of April. We are talking the top 10 worst programs in the Power Four of college football. Doesn't include LSU, as you were saying. But yeah, we're also going to look at some of the best players in college football this past year who are maybe going towards the NFL draft. We're not going to be doing a full NFL mock draft. That's a whole lot of effort for a sport I do not care that much about. But it does include college football players, so we'll point out some cool guys and remember, oh, wow, that guy was really good.
Yeah. I haven't paid any attention to the mock drafts. I just can't. I mean, I'll watch the NFL some, especially when college football winds down. I'll watch the playoffs. I cannot get into hearing everybody's 37th mock draft. I just can't do it.
So
I mean, I love these players in college, but I can't do it. So
okay, all right. So first off, there been a pretty slow news week as college football goes.
Yeah, it's been a lot of spring games. I know you've probably heard the same stuff I have. A lot of spring games the past couple of weeks since we were on the air. I don't know there's anything new or super important. I mean, you got position battles, QB battles. Everybody looks good. Defenses look good. I don't know. I mean, did you get anything out of anything you heard or read?
Yeah, I didn't get anything particularly interesting except for the fact that, man, the defenses are so good that these offenses are really they're really waiting to break out, but the defenses on every team seem to be so much better, which is, if you've been following the sport long enough, exactly how this always goes. Offense takes more repetition to get in sync. You have more things that can go wrong. And the defenses usually always look better in the spring games. But that's kind of the standard behavior. So
yeah, I always like to listen to quarterback stuff. A couple quarterbacks jumped out at me. I heard Brown at Auburn did not look good from what I hear.
Interesting.
I'll be curious to get a little more information from our man down on the plains. Some information from him.
Okay.
And I heard Tavian St. Clair looked really good at Ohio State. Now, he's not going to take the job from Sagan, but he's the guy waiting there. And I think Ohio State just reloads all the time at that position. So,
yeah, I agree. All right. Do you want to just go ahead and jump right into it? Our top 10 worst Power Four programs?
Yeah, and so we got to work our way from 10 to all the way to 1, 1 being the worst.
1 being the worst? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got some honorable mentions first.
Okay. Who are your honor? Let's talk honorable mentions first, okay?
Okay. Do you want me to start with my honorable mentions?
You start with your honorable mentions.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 5 honorable mentions. So they finished somewhere in the 11 to 15 range. First of all, at Arizona, I think if you go back and I had to look back kind of at the last 5 years. Arizona's 29 and 36 the last 5 years, 446 winning percentages. They showed some flashes occasionally, but they didn't make my top 10. So I mean, they're not there. I know this is going to surprise you. Vandy makes an honorable mention.
Really? I see. Here's the thing. I'm going to push back on that because I think they would have, but I think that they have really revamped their program going and future forward looking. And where they are right now, I don't think they're not.
You're right, but if you look back the last 5 years, it's a 415 winning percentage. 110-3 season does not make them, immune. They didn't make my top 10. They're honorable mentions. Okay, Nebraska, another honorable mention. I think Matt Rule's got them at least better than they were.
I don't have Nebraska in here, but
they were an honorable mention. But they are 26 and 39 the last 5 years, still 400.
Okay.
All right, and then we got to talk about the 2 Virginia schools that made honorable mention. Virginia Tech. Now, listen, Virginia Tech clearly would have been in the top 10 here if they hadn't hired James Franklin. Do you know what their record is the last 5 years?
It's not good.
23 and 42. That's a 354 winning percentage. They're terrible.
Yeah, that's not
and they
fantastic.
Clearly would have been in that top 10 if it weren't the fact they hired James Franklin. So I can't put them in there. And then, of course, Virginia would have clearly been in the top 10 if they hadn't just done what they did last year. I got to give them and Vanderbilt kind of get the last season, benefit of the doubt that, hey, maybe they're going in the right direction. So those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, my honorable mentions. I had UVA, Virginia Tech, same reasons. I had Wisconsin as an honorable mention.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, they've been pretty much fallen off a cliff. I don't think Luke Fickell's done well there at all. I'm not sure whether it's him or just lack of resources from that administration. I think the AD is probably heading out the door there pretty soon. I've got Oklahoma State I know they've hired, Eric Morris and bring in
Mhm.
Mestamaker and those guys, and they've got rid of Gundy, but Gundy has left that program in the wreckage. And it remains to be, it'll take a excellent coaching job for multiple years to get them out of the dumpster. And it remains to be seen if Eric Morris is that guy. Maybe he is. Um, T. Boone Pickens is no longer giving hundreds of millions of dollars to that program. So they don't
If
have.
he is, let me know because we got a bigger story to break on the huddle.
Right. Right. So they have got they don't quite have the donor base that a lot of the other their peers, you would say, in the Big 12 do. And so I'm skeptical that they can make a full turnaround. I also have Maryland and Wake Forest as honorable mentions.
Mm. They don't make my honorable mentions, but they may show up somewhere.
I have Maryland just because since moving to the Big Ten, they've kind of underperformed every year. They're a small fish in a big pond, and they're kind of bumped their head up against a much larger sharks in that conference. There's talent in the DMV, and they've tried to recruit that. And with Malik Washington, some guys they got this year, this may be the cash in year for Maryland if they can have it, but they have not performed well historically. And then Wake Forest, the smallest school in the Power Five, the one of the least resourced. Jake Dickert did a great job there last year, and they've had very good min-maxing coaches between him and before that. But the max at that program is probably 7 wins, and that's operating at peak efficiency, and that's with other teams down. If Wake Forest did not play in the atrocious ACC, they might be near the top of this list.
Yeah. Okay. Well, your list feeds perfectly into my number 10. So we're going to start with my number 10, and that is the Maryland Terrapins.
Okay.
When Bradley Cooper says in Wedding Crashers, Maryland's about crab cakes and football, I don't think he was talking about the Maryland Terrapins. Yeah. I think he was talking about the Baltimore Ravens because this program is, they're just historically not very good. The best, their ceiling feels like 6-6 every year. They just can't seem. They're not able to compete with Ohio State, Penn State. They're just in recruiting. They are 29-36 the last 5 years. They never can seem to get. They're 8-4 is just almost an impossibility with this program. I don't think the Big Ten was. I don't think moving to the Big Ten overall was bad for this program. In a lot of ways, they did it because they needed the money. They're not a fit in the Big Ten. They were a much better fit in football and basketball, particularly in the ACC. This was always a mistake, and I think it's proved it out because I think Maryland could have been a more competitive program in both sports in the ACC, but they are clearly the number 10. The only reason they're not higher is because we've got some really bottom feeders ahead of them.
Yeah. Maryland was in the honorable mentions for that reason. My number 10 is North Carolina.
Oh, you didn't.
I did.
No.
Now this is going to be
their record hasn't been that bad.
Right. This is going to be controversial, and this is also kind of right now and forward looking. So I'm not quite. I didn't wait the last 5 years kind of thing. I did a kind of right now and looking forward approach to my program rankings. And the reason North Carolina is here is a couple of reasons. One, a disastrous head coaching hire that they can't get out of with Bill Belichick, right? They paid him $10 million plus, which is a national championship competing head coaching salary. They're getting nowhere close to that. They went 4-8 last season, right? At Carolina,
yeah, I think it was 4-8. Yeah.
4-8. As second season as Belichick, he's been terrible there. So the money was poorly spent. They now spent money in the transfer portal overpaying for bad players because nobody wants to pay for Belichick. The terrible use of resources. Infighting in the athletic department. There's multiple hands in the pie. There's the AD's on his way out, and he didn't. It's looking like early 2000s Florida State, like or Auburn. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, and the kicker, they just hired a new basketball coach, and we're not happy with the performance of Hubert Davis. I see Carolina pulling back from football, pulling back from Belichick, tripling down into basketball. They've seen Duke dominate in college basketball the last couple of years, and they're not in the regular season and the ACC. That's just the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah,
they have, and that's their rival, arch rival, and they're not happy, and they're going to pour money into that basketball program. They just got an NBA head coach, and they're gonna pour money into getting players, and that's going to dry up the football spend. And all of those reasons, along with a general just apathy from the fan base, I'm gonna say North Carolina is at number 10.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, their record has been better than the 4-8. I don't think it was a good hire. I don't think it's going to work out. But I don't think they're in the top 10.
And also, historically, Carolina's never been a really great football program.
They've been great, but they've been better than all these other programs. I mean, they're always a 7-8 win team typically.
How many times in the last 20 years have they been down to 1 or 2 wins? Like 3 times.
Not all. No. Go back. They're not among this group we're talking. They're just above this group. I mean, they all are. And the fan apathy isn't as bad. I think the coaching hire was a mistake. I think there's no doubt about it. And it's gonna set them back. But I understand your reasoning. I don't have them in my top 10. So
okay.
That's for
okay.
So all right. Who's your number 9?
My number 9 is Michigan State.
Oh my gosh. Whoa.
Yeah, I'm going to get a little controversial with this.
You are. Man, I tell you what, I don't want to see the comments this week. Oh my gosh.
Now, here's the thing. I think Michigan State is in a similar spot in Maryland. And I don't think Michigan State fans are not going to like to hear that. But in the new Big Ten, just how Maryland went from the ACC into the old Big Ten and struggled, Michigan State's going to go from the old Big Ten into the new Big Ten and struggle. Their ceiling is going to be 6-7 wins. And, I like Pat Fitzgerald. It's still an open question if he can win in the NIL era. That's an open question.
Yeah.
And even at Northwestern, at his maximum, what he got he got 9 wins one year. I don't see Michigan State. Michigan State's all football success came in the days when Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State to some degree were down, and the rest of the conference was spending zero money on football. The rest of the conference is spending money on football now, and they've added USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington. That middle has completely crowded them out, and they're now, I think, significantly downgraded a tier. I don't see really a positive future. Jonathan Smith, we thought was a good coach coming from Oregon State, didn't do well there. They're losing transfers to Indiana. Indiana's outpaying them for transfers, right? Indiana is the giant in the Big Ten now. I don't see a spot for Michigan State going forward. They are they're in my bottom 10.
That's interesting. I did not have them about 10. I understand your logic. I did not. I just think the brand is too big. Again, I don't see they're far off from the 10, but I just have other programs that are far worse shape. My number 9 is Kansas. Kansas just, the difference between the Kansas and Michigan State is several zeros behind those checks. Kansas in the Big 12 isn't going to generate the money. 430 winning percentage. I mean, they've had a couple, like one good year in the last 5. Kansas just is not going to be able to generate the type of recruiting advantage where even on their best years, and Lance Leipold's a great coach.
He is a great coach.
At best, they can get to an 8-4 season, 9-3 maybe, but then they're going to tail off to a 5-7, 4-8 season. Kansas just to me is not a sustainable program year after year after year. That's why they're at number 9 for me.
Okay. All right. My number 8, Mississippi State.
Oh yeah, that's the same one for me. It's the only.
Oh really?
The only SC school in the list for me.
I got one more.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let me tell you why they're down on 8 for me. They clearly have a terrible winning percentage. Okay.
Yes.
I mean, they are sub 400. They're 24-41.
Aren't they like second to Indiana in historical Power 5 winning percentage?
I don't know about historically, but they've been bad the last 5 years. They don't win ball games. The only reason they're not 2 or 3 is because I do think there is SEC level or caliber players there. They do fight pretty hard. I would say against a lot of these other teams on my top 10, I think Mississippi State would probably beat most of these teams if you put them
I
on
would
a
agree with
neutral
that.
field.
Yeah.
I just think they're in an impossible situation. One, they're the little brother in the state so they're not even going to be
And
competitive.
it's not a big state talent wise.
Not a big state. They're never going to be competitive with Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss. They don't have the NIL money. This is just an impossible job to win at, I think.
Every school within 100 miles is trying to be a national title contender every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
and with 5 times the money.
Yeah, better resources.
And so there's basically like they're like Poland. They're surrounded on all sides, like Poland in World War II. They're surrounded on all sides by giants, and they can fight really hard, and we really give them props. But there's not a whole lot.
I mean, I have nothing against Mississippi State. I just think
I love the cowbell. It's great. More cowbell. Stark Vegas. I love Jeff Lebby and the Veer and Shoot, but you're kind of maxed out there.
It's an impossible situation. All right. Okay.
All right. Who's your 7?
I had Wake Forest. They moved up, and for all the reasons you said earlier. Small enrollment, limited upside. They're not going to survive in the NIL world for very long. If there ever is a Super League, which I know that's a bad word on this show, I worry that they may not make the cut.
Yeah, they might not.
But it's just it's a tough. I mean, I think Jake Dicker will probably do the best he can. I just don't know if that's a winnable job anymore. I think 7-5, 6-6 would be the absolute best, and that depends on how you do the out of conference scheduling, and if you get some of the ACC scheduling falls in the right, and you get the bottom tier of the ACC.
Yeah.
Who's your 7?
My 7 is Northwestern.
Okay, I had them a little bit different, but we'll talk.
And you may be like, you really have, Northwestern above some of the other teams we're going to get to. The reason is Northwestern, the only reason they aren't 1 or 2 is Ryan, the guy Ryan. They're multi-billionaire mega donor that basically funds their whole program. Yeah. He's building them the new stadium. That's great. The old stadium was Ryan Field. The new one's going to be Ryan Field. He is that program. Yeah. And, I think they're a great, team that they can, when they get up, they can have occasionally a great upset, some good seasons, but they're a private school. They're Wake Forest with much stronger academic considerations. And I think they're grandfathered into the Big Ten and they've got money, but they're just never going to be able to compete at the level where they could.
They never really have. Occasionally they had pre-NIL era. They had occasionally once every number of years.
They build up. They were the get old, stay old model, but that you can't do that in the modern era, and that's just not feasible.
No. Okay. Number 6. Now, my number 6 may surprise you, but who's your number 6?
Syracuse.
Interesting. Now, I completely left them off my top 10, which maybe I need to rethink this. But okay, tell me why Syracuse is your 6, and then I'm going to shock you on mine.
So
they may be higher in your list. My number 6.
Syracuse on my list is there for a couple of reasons. One, location. There's no talent anywhere near them, really.
Yeah, that's true.
They have to basically their whole team has to be sourced from out of state. There's occasionally some players that come from Massachusetts, New York, but it's pretty rare. They don't have much money in the ACC. The ACC moving to the rating, is it ratings based?
Yeah, it's some formula.
It's a formula between ratings and performance that helps distribution. They're never going to pull crazy ratings. They don't have an insane fan base. They're in a cold place. Syracuse is the kind of program where if they had a big donor, they could move up, but they're kind of just there, and they're kind of a middling team in the ACC. They can perhaps occasionally scrape up in the ACC and challenge some of the big boys, which they have before. I like Fran Brown. I think he's a really good coach. I don't think Fran Brown's going to be there for very long. We'll see. I think, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I didn't have my top 10 because Syracuse, and I guess I looked at this more from a win-loss record. Syracuse is just never terrible.
You're right. They're never terrible. They can get up, but
But they're never going to win 10 games, but they're never usually 2-10. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So, and that's really whereas some of these other teams can be dreadful at times. So
yeah,
that was probably my distinguishing. Okay, my number 6. Are you ready for it?
yeah.
Do you believe?
Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take out the one magical season with Travis Hunter and Shador, and they're not very good. And they're trending not to be very good again. I mean, I don't know. And I think Dion can be pretty good, but Dion has not committed fully to recruiting. He hasn't committed fully to the portal. They seem to
I left Colorado off my list. Man, I forgot.
I know. It's easy to forget these teams, but you take out that 1 year and a half of magic, and it's really what it was, kind of, and they're still not great. And I just don't know if you pull him out of Colorado, I'm not sure they don't sink to the bottom of the Big 12 quickly.
I think they're gonna be there with him there.
I think they're gonna be a little better. I like the quarterback. I do think that quarterback is special. But I do think the wide receivers aren't bad this year. I don't think they have any defense. I think they're going to give up a ton of points.
No defense, no O-line.
So but Colorado and me, I just don't know. They don't seem to have the structure there short of Dion. And I think and I just don't know how much Dion with his health problems, how much he's going to coach. So Colorado was 6 to me. I think that's a program that may not be long for this world if Dion goes and does something else.
Yeah, that's fair. I forgot to put Colorado on this list. So I would probably place them right around where you have them. But in my let's do 5. What's your 5?
I have the school that if you ask most people, they couldn't tell you what state it's in. Rutgers.
Oh,
they should just name this New Jersey Tech 100 years ago because nobody knows what Rutgers is.
It's kind of strange, but
Rutgers is fine. I mean, they belong in a different. They're never going to be competitive in the Big Ten. They don't have. Nobody cares about going to Rutgers. If you're a decent player in New Jersey, you're going to Penn State or you're going to Ohio State. I mean, they just don't have. There's occasionally good talent.
There's some talent in New Jersey
because there are people that live there, but but they never stay really. And this isn't a criticism of the coaching. I think the coaching's fine there. They're just never. You don't have that infrastructure. You don't have that NIL base. You don't have the fan support. Rutgers is just going to be at the bottom of the Big Ten every single year, and even under the best coaching scenario, you're just looking at a bowl team at best.
Yeah. I did not have Rutgers on this list. I think they probably should be in the honorable mention category for me. Okay. I think they just have better organization than some of the other Big 10 teams I've been put on here.
That's why they've played better, but it doesn't mean from a program perspective, I just don't know that it's that great.
My number 5 is Arkansas.
Whoa.
Now,
okay.
Again, we're going to be waiting. Now look here. Last couple of, Arkansas has not been good for a long time in the SEC. Okay? You go back to the coaches they've hired, they have not been great. They had the 1 year under the O-line guy. What was his name?
Oh, gosh. Why am I drawing a blank now?
Anyway, they had the 1 year under him that they were good. But going forward in the NIL era, I think Arkansas is a bottom 5 job, and here's why. As an and it's by choice. It's not by situation. As an athletic program, Arkansas has decided to put all of their money, to pool their money and to heavily invest into basketball with John Calipari and to their baseball program and softball. And they've decided we are not going to ever compete for a national championship in football. We already knew that. But they've decided instead of spending insane amounts of money to probably never outpace Auburn, what they're going to do is they're going to get a basketball coach. They're going to compete for championships in basketball, and they're going to compete for championships in baseball. And until they decide to change that, they're the worst funded program in the SEC, football-wise. This has been They have less money for football than Mississippi State does.
Yeah.
And that's by choice. It's the choice by their athletic department. Until that changes, they are going to be this bad. There's a reason they hired Ryan Silverfield from Memphis, who did an okay job at Memphis when he was able to outspend all of the other teams in his conference. Nobody else wanted that Arkansas job. They called around. Literally no, like there are coaches out there that are sitting in Group of 5 jobs right now that said, no, I'd rather stay at my Group of 5 program than go to Arkansas. And honestly, if I were Ryan Silverfield, I probably would have should have stayed at Memphis where you had more resources. And for those reasons, and Arkansas is a great place. Arkansas fans are woo pig suey. They're very passionate. But unless Tyson or Walmart steps up and says, all right, we're funding football, it's not happening there. And it's by choice.
Yeah. You made good points. I just they have put together some 9 and 10 win seasons in the last 5 years, but maybe in the new era, maybe you're right. Maybe that's a different story.
Again, with the expanded SEC, even more difficult. Yeah. That's an automatic win for Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah, Arkansas is a team that if you took them out and just plopped them in the Big 12, we've talked about this before. If they were in the Big 12 today, they'd be great. They'd be a great program.
They'd be great
because you'd have natural rivalries with a lot of the Texas schools, Oklahoma State. You'd be a competitive program. They're just not going to be competitive in the SEC.
Yeah, they're not.
So, all right. Who's your number 4?
My number 4 is Kansas for all the reasons you said.
We talked about it, and I had Northwestern number 4. Okay.
Yeah.
I think our top 3 are going to be the exact same.
I'm just curious about the order.
I think the order. Okay, number 3.
Stanford.
No, I had Purdue. And the only reason 2. Purdue was at number 3.
That's my 2.
Purdue was number 3 because they have Big Ten money. And I don't think they hate football. I think they actually probably can put some money together and probably care a little bit.
But they care way more about basketball.
But they care way more about basketball. And Purdue does have a football tradition if you go back in the 60s and 70s. There is some tradition.
But it's football tradition in the same vein as like Army and Cal. Like
but let me just say this. If Purdue ever decided like Indiana that they wanted to be good at football, they could be good at football. Because they're not Northwestern and they're not Rutgers.
You're right.
And they're not, Northwestern. Okay. They have deep pocketed alumni. That's an engineering school. They have a big alumni. I'm convinced that if Purdue actually cared, and this is a school Drew Brees went to. There's some NFL people, that went to the. So I put them on the list just because they have been historically bad and will continue to be. But I'm not convinced that if you put if you bring a Kurt Cinetti kind of person there and they find some money, they could be good. But they're just bad right now.
I think that's just contingent on you would need a generational coach or a generational AD to unlock that.
I think so. Absolutely.
And just a good AD and a good coach will never.
And you did it in Indiana because it finally happened.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right. So you had Stanford. I didn't have Stanford there. So.
Yeah. So Stanford, I had at 3. I think there's a couple of reasons. One, academically, they, I guess, still aren't really playing ball with what needs to happen from an academic standpoint to get transfers in or to get their players into their own grad programs. This is a school administration in California that has basically decided, and from a school standpoint, I actually understand what they're saying. Because Stanford's a bit like probably one of the only Power 5 programs that would be richer if they didn't have a football program. They have more money than anybody else in the Power 5 except Texas. Their endowment is gigantic. So they absolutely do not need football in any sense of the word, right? And from that standpoint, they've chosen that they're not going to, fudge the academics to get good football players in the transfer portal and to keep their old players in grad school. And that's a choice. Again, this is another choice-based scenario where the administration at Stanford, the non-athletics administration, has chosen, hey, we're just going to stick to academics. And that really limits their ability there. They've hired Andrew Luck as a GM. I'm curious to see what he can do there. But until they can kind of change that attitude on campus, they're very limited in the NIL era. I would think that they would be able to raise money being in Silicon Valley, being in that area. But it's kind of do the Silicon Valley people care about football?
Do they really care? I don't know.
Because
like they're different than Purdue, because I think Purdue people, there's probably somebody that cares.
Engineers in Indiana probably care more about football than
venture capital
capitalists in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
so I don't know.
All right. So who did you have at 2 then? Do we have
Purdue.
the same? Purdue. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I had Boston College at number 2.
Okay.
Small school, kind of like Wake Forest, proud football history for a long time.
Yeah.
But really, going to the ACC was never a good fit for them. They lost all their advantages in the Big East. Never really been able to compete in the ACC. This is a school that can't get their act together. I think this is another one that if a Super League was formed, they're in deep trouble. They don't have a recruiting advantage in the New England area because there's just not a lot of talent there. I don't know what's going to happen to this program. I mean, I just don't know how they continue to survive in today's modern NIL world, driven off dollars, as well as, you still need to get recruits. They feel like they're going to get left behind, and I don't care how good a coach you find, it's going to be hard. Again, Indiana gave us the blueprint of how you can turn a program around with a generational coach, someone who can really change it. But Indiana's also has the largest alumni. I think Indiana is the largest living alumni group in the country or the world. Boston College doesn't have that. So when you talk about some of these smaller schools, they can't just become the next Indiana. You need certain factors to become the next Indiana, and Boston College doesn't have it. So,
and also, maybe there won't be the next Indiana.
Maybe there will never be.
How long was it before Indiana that until a new team won a national title? It was Florida.
Was it Florida?
It was Florida with Spurrier was the last new team to win a national title. There may not be another Indiana.
Dang. Was it really? That's an interesting question. Okay.
Yeah, it was Florida.
So you must have Boston College at 1.
I have Boston College at 1.
I had Stanford at 1. Okay. So we agree on the top 3. That's what I
top
thought.
3. Boston College, Massachusetts, and Boston in general just does not have the college football culture that it used to. The city is very the area in the city is changed. It's more, it's very career and pro sports town. They're great at pro sports. Boston College is not a huge state university. It has issues. The proud football tradition, like you said, they can't recruit. They've never been really good in the ACC. They almost never sell tickets. Like if you ever watched a Boston College game, which you kind of have to be a sicko to do, they almost never show the crowd. No. And when they do, it's literally always empty. Yeah. There just seems to be no passion. I don't know what the donor situation is, but I can't imagine it's very good. They're regularly recruiting way below group of 5 teams. And they're down there with Colorado and Boston College are the 2 worst recruiting programs in the country recently in the NIL era. So I just don't see Boston College going anywhere.
Yeah. No. Yeah, these are some interesting programs, and some of these just structurally, they're not going to get better. I mean, they just aren't. I don't care how good a coach is in. I mean, with Boston College and Stanford, I just don't see how those things change.
Yeah, barring structural changes to the sport.
Yeah. The sport is the sport. I mean, let's go back to the list here. Arkansas and Michigan State can get better if certain changes are made within those programs.
Yeah.
Stanford, Boston College, Wake Forest, in Kansas aren't changing unless the sport changes.
Yeah. I think there's a wild card scenario that Kansas could get better.
Kansas is going to have to make the cut in the Super League.
If they make the cut in the Super League for basketball, there's a scenario they could.
Correct. So, I mean, again, this gets into that Super League talk, and How many teams go into it? What does it look like? I mean,
Is it a 30-team Super League or a 65-team Super League?
Well, it's not going to be a 30 team. It's going to be 40 teams or 48 or 55, 56.
Right. I think it may be around in the 60s.
And if it's in the 60s, then maybe, and then you get to, is there equal revenue sharing? So then all of a sudden, does Boston College or Stanford will make that cut. I will tell you right now.
Do the big schools agree to equal revenue sharing?
Or maybe Kansas. Or I shouldn't say Stanford. Kansas will make that cut because of basketball.
Do the big schools agree for equal revenue sharing as part of an agreement to not sue for antitrust with collective bargaining? Like,
I don't know.
That could happen. So
does Alabama want to have the same revenue as?
Well, Michigan that's the thing. State? Alabama won't have the same revenue. It'll just be the same TV revenue. Because you got to think ticket sales, boosters, all the big schools are still going to outdraw revenue wise the smaller schools.
But TV revenue is going to be the majority of that revenue stream. It always.
You think so? I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I mean, the money's going to be overwhelming from they do from the conference now.
Maybe they do a partial performance. They do it like the Premier League, where like 1/4 of it is equal, 1/4 of it is performance, and 1/2 of it is like historic performance or something. Like Premier League has a partial split.
Yeah, there's a whole lot that'll have to go. But I think some of these schools we mentioned, some of these programs are probably doomed. And some of them, there's a lifeline. They're just hanging on until this league forms, which we think 2029, 2030.
Yeah, and it feels unlikely that the entire Big 12 and the entire ACC will get left out.
No, it's just a matter of
I feel like some of them will.
I think there's a few that could. There's a few to some. I don't think all, but again, if I'm Wake Forest and if I'm Boston College, I'm probably a little concerned.
I'm very concerned.
If I'm Stanford, I'm probably less concerned. I'm certainly not concerned if I'm Arkansas or Mississippi State.
Yeah.
You know.
So
anyway, well, that's interesting.
Let's transition and talk about some NFL draft players. I'm just going to go down a projected draft board here and kind of just talk about some of the players. 1-1 is going to be Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
He, what is there to say about Fernando Mendoza that hasn't already been said? It's
great college quarterback. I'm not sure he's going to be successful with the Raiders.
Well, that's the thing with that statement is the Raiders.
That's the problem. First of all,
the problem with that statement is the Raiders.
If Mendoza was going next year's draft, where all the QBs are coming out, I'm not sure he would be the number 1 overall pick. And then to go to the Raiders, which is a dumpster fire of an organization, I think this could be bad for Mendoza's career. He's going to get paid, but I don't know if this is going to work out.
Yeah, he has elite processing, which can be good in the NFL. But it remains to be seen if he's going to be that level running a different offense.
Yeah.
The RPO offense they ran at Indiana is QB friendly. After this, it gets kind of projected. So I'm just going to go down the list. I don't know if this is exactly where these picks are going to go. Arvell Reese, the edge rusher from Ohio State. What are your thoughts on him?
Solid pick. Would that be the Jets at 2?
The Jets, I think.
Yeah. The Jets should just do that. That's a no-brainer. He's just going to be solid and steady in that defense for a long time. Can do a number of things defensively. Probably the best player on that Ohio State defense last year.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, there's 2 other guys in that list who could make the argument for best player on that defense last year. David Bailey, Texas Tech.
Good.
Yeah,
solid.
Fantastic. I mean,
I heard somebody, and I can't attribute to this person because I don't remember who said it, but someone the other day made a comment that if you look at this year's draft, if you just added 10 spots to everybody, that's probably where they all really belong. So in other words, like, David Bailey, he might go 3rd, but in reality is he's probably really should go 13th in a normal year. Like,
you think? I was kind of feeling the opposite and thinking this is a very talented draft.
Most people are saying this is a fairly weak draft. And so that overall, like, these people would be much better if you just added 10 spots to them And then you're like, okay, that's a good pick for 13. That's a good pick for 12. Like, so this is not a good draft. Next year's draft is going to be loaded. Absolutely freaking loaded.
Gotcha.
So.
We got Jeremiah Love going to the Titans.
Don't think he's going to go that high at 4.
I kind of agree. That's just the mock draft that I'm reading off of.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Love, best running back in draft,
Yes.
obviously.
Yes.
I think he will be a stud in the NFL, but that's the thing with running backs is it almost entirely depends on if you have a good O-line.
I don't think he's as good as Saquon or Bijan. I
think he might be as good as Bijan. He's
not
as good as Saquon.
Did you see Bijan last year?
Yeah, but Bijan's had a couple of years to kind of get his he's been good, but he wasn't quite that great this first year.
Maybe so. I don't know. I'll be interested to see. I think I like Jeremiah Love. I just don't. I'm always hesitant with picking these guys really high
because running backs it's so dependent. Except for like literally Saquon, it's so dependent on the O-line situation. Francis Maligoa to the Giants.
Solid. Yeah.
That's a great pick, which is why the Giants probably won't do it. They'll probably mess it up. He's a no-brainer. He's the best offensive tackle in the draft, in my opinion. He destroyed people at Miami. And Spencer Fano to the Browns. I think, I think he's probably pretty high on this, like too high on this list. But
yeah, exactly.
I don't think he's a top 10 tackle. I think he's a first-round tackle. But yeah, we got Washington picking Carnell Tate, maybe.
Again, too high for that. Too high,
right. Now, Sonny Styles is elite.
Yes.
Take him to the Cowboys, maybe, is what they're saying. I think he's going to be great wherever he goes. I know linebacker is not necessarily the money position it used to be, but he's great in coverage and in the pass rush. And he's one of the smartest play reading players I've seen in college football in several years. And same goes with Caleb Downs. I'm not sure where he'll be picked, but
smart player. Caleb Downs.
I could see him going maybe the highest a safety's gone in like 20 years.
Yeah. He should. If you have a safety,
he's like a literal processing genius.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen anybody in the secondary process plays as fast as he does. I think it's partly like his preparation, and he's the athletic freak for sure. But whenever you watch a game with him, it seems like every other or every third play, he's reading exactly what the offense is doing and is making a play on the ball before the ball even gets there.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of like when Tom Brady is driving in 2 minutes and you just know that he's going to find the right guy. It's Caleb Downs is in the back there. It's like you just know he's going to find the right way to the ball. It's elite processing. Ruben Bain, Jordan Tyson, or some other guys that go up here, a lot was made about Bain's arm length. Like, I don't think it is if you're rushing the passer like that, and, small hands, whatever.
I don't know. There's a reason those rules exist.
Yeah. I think Jordan Tyson will be good. I don't see him as a top 10 guy, but who else? We got Jermod McCoy, Delane, some corners. Who else? Mekhi Lemon. I think Mekhi Lemon should probably go over Jordan Tyson, in my opinion. I don't think he will,
so too.
But I think he's a better NFL prospect than Tyson, and I think somebody is gonna be kicking themselves if they pick Tyson.
I'm real interested to see Ty Simpson, where if some team trades back into the first round to pick him up. I don't know about Ty Simpson. I'm still a little leery of that, but I think there's some teams that are intrigued by him.
Yeah, and also Caden Proctor. I'm interested in where Caden Proctor goes because when he's playing at his best, he's completely unstoppable, but he's just so inconsistent. He reminds me of an offensive Jadeveon Clowney. Like he's one of the freakiest athletes in years at the position. Completely unstoppable when he's on. He can run routes at 350 pounds and catch the ball. Insane. But some games it just feels like he doesn't try at all. and I'm interested to see how teams weigh that and where he goes in the draft. Because if you think I can get him to be 100% all the time, you could argue he's a top 10, top 5 pick.
Yeah.
But I don't think he'll go anywhere that pace, because I think it'll be kind of a, hey, what can we get out of him kind of player.
Yeah.
Anything else stick out in the first round?
No, I'm just really already excited for next year's draft. I literally cannot wait for next year's draft.
It'll be sick.
We can have 6, 7 quarterbacks taken. We will have wide receiver roulette with Cam Coleman, Jeremiah Smith. I mean, next year's draft will be crazy. I mean, yes. I already feel like I'm going to mark on my calendar next time to like tomorrow night. I've got other plans.
Dude, I might watch the second round next year.
Exactly. I mean, and here's the one thing I'll say wrapping up this year's draft. There are teams that are already talking about tanking for next year. You got to be careful of that, because you never know if your tanking is going to work and who you're tanking for.
Right.
So we'll just be interested to see. I think you're going to see a lot of teams want to trade down. I think you're going to see teams that are going to take building blocks thinking that they're getting ready for next year in the quarterbacks, like taking offensive tackles, linemen. You kind of get the building blocks so they can build for the next
corner.
Exactly. Yeah. So this will be probably a very, I think you can see.
So maybe maybe running backs and receivers will go that high.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But all right.
So, I guess we'll have to come up with a topic for the next couple of weeks. We'll come up with a good one. We need to start doing some previews maybe of, we still have not done our 2019 versus LSU versus 2001 Miami.
We can talk about that maybe next week
or in 2 weeks.
Or in 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
I will say, I think that, well, first of all, shout out Reed for suggesting this topic this week of the top bottom 10 programs.
And he wasn't even in the chat.
He wasn't even in the chat today, but that's okay. We know he's going to listen to the pod on review. Also, I'm thinking we could do like draft grades for like some of the first guys, just kind of after the results of the NFL draft.
All right, so we'll do some draft grades, and then we'll be prepared. You're gonna try to defend LSU, aren't you?
For the greatest team ever?
Yes.
I don't know. I'm not sure if I'll defend LSU or not.
Oh, I'm defending Miami. I already know her.
Okay. I think I'll have to pick LSU then.
Yes.
But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe. We've been getting crazy numbers on the YouTube. Watch all the clips and the shorts.
Don't watch the NBA playoffs. Watch us.
Watch Hoppy Huddle. Okay, that's
hockey's been pretty good though. I have to admit, hockey's been pretty fun.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Join us live, and you can hop in the chat and ask us questions, and we'll respond to them. Catch you next time.
All right. Catch you later.